Hello world, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to create the Gumroad website in EditorX, and this website, or this video actually, is a part of a series that I'm releasing on my channel where I create the same website in Code, Webflow, and EditorX. And coming up next, my next video is also going to be about comparing Webflow and EditorX to Code and seeing which no-code tool works the best, either Webflow or EditorX. So subscribe for that. But yeah, so today we're going to be building the Gumroad website in EditorX. So this website, as you can see here, we have the nav bar, and it has a couple of links, and we have these buttons. And then we also have this sort of hero section, as well as this grid. So you can see that to the left we have the text, and to the right we have this image. And as we scroll down, we have some text here, and then more grids and images. Same thing down here. So as you can see, we have more text, some grids, a list with this nice little arrow that acts as a sort of bullet point, I guess. And then we have, again, another sort of grid layout. And this just sort of continues throughout most of this website. So as you can see, it's all pretty similar. Now here we have some coins that are just floating around, and then we have more grids, and finally we have our footer down here. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the website. Let's just get right into making it. So the first part of the website that we're going to be building is the nav bar. So as you can see, this nav bar that is in the blank canvas of the EditorX is a little bit different structurally than the one that we're going to be building. So our logo is sort of at the top here, and then we have our menu, whereas in the EditorX version we have the logo to the side, and then we have the menu to the right. So the first thing we're going to do to sort of create this is just sort of replacing this vector art to the image that we have. So this is our logo, and I'm just going to add it. Okay, perfect. Now to create the sort of vertical stacking going on here, I'm just going to grab the header, and I'm going to apply a grid to it. So right now it has 2 columns and 1 row, but I'm going to make sure that it has 1 column and 2 rows. Okay. Then I'm going to change the grid layout, so I'm going to go into advanced mode, and I'm going to make sure that I hit auto here for all the rows, because we don't want it to be set in stone, we just want it to be calculated. I sort of forgot to set auto for the second one as well, so let's make sure that it says auto, done. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to grab our logo here, and I'm just going to make sure that it's only located in the first grid cell, the first row at least. Okay, and then for the menu, I'm going to make sure that this is only located in the second sort of row. Okay, perfect. So now this logo needs to have a width of like, let's say 95%, with the height to be auto here, and now I'll set the size to be 100%. Okay, let's make sure that I hit 95%. I also want to center it like that, both horizontally and vertically. And I'm just going to reduce this extra space that we have around here. Okay, perfect. Now for our menu. So let's create this side of our menu, which is this sort of these pieces of text right here, these links. So for that, I'm just going to add a couple more items. So I'm going to add a link, and for now it's going to be an anchor, but it really doesn't have to be. It's just what we're going to be using for now, instead of setting up a new page for each and every one of the links. So this is going to say features, and I'll add another one, so another anchor. Okay, perfect. And this is called pricing, and I'll do one more. We don't really have to do all of them. So this last one can be university, I think. Okay, so that's university, so now I'm just going to close that out, and I'm going to go to the layout settings of our menu here. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the text is aligned center, all the items are the same size, and the items fit the whole menu, so they're sort of displayed from the left to the right, and that's it. Now if I just go ahead and if I just change the width of our menu right here, you can see that it starts to change. Now I'm just going to move this menu all the way to the left here. So let's say that this menu has a height of auto. Okay, that doesn't work. Let's give it a min height of 50 pixels. And I'm going to make sure that it has a width of 55%. 60%? No, I think 50 looks better. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create our login buttons right here. So for that, I'm going to grab the menu, and I'm going to make sure that it is placed in a container like that. I'm going to go to my layers just to make sure that it is inside the container. Okay, perfect. Now this container is going to have a width of 100%. Okay, but our menu is going to go back to having a width of 50%. Okay, so now inside of our container, we're going to place our buttons. So that's going to be this button right here. So I'll just attach it in. Now this button is going to have a width of 13% and a minimum height of 50 pixels, just like the rest of the website right here. And I'm going to make sure that there's no spacing to the right, so no margin. Also going to get rid of the corners that you see right there. Okay, and when we hover on this, we actually want to change a couple things. So I have this color right here, that is this sort of pink, so I'm going to change it to that color. And then I am just going to change the text color to be black when that happens. Okay, perfect. Now I also want to go back and give this some border, so let's say like 2 pixels of border. And I'm going to do the same for the container. So I'm going to grab the container and give that 2 pixels of border as well. So now if we look, well, that didn't show up, I wonder why. Okay, what are we doing wrong? Oh, of course we need to give it a color. Okay, so let's give it 2 pixels of border. And the button, I don't think, okay, the button can have a border as well. And then I'm just going to duplicate the button once and place it right here. Okay, so this is going to be our second button. This one is going to have a background color of white and a text color of black, just because we're sort of switching it up. Okay, and then the same thing happens when we hover. Okay, the only real thing that we need to change right now is the font. So I'm going to go back to my button and make sure that the font is prompt. And I'm also going to get rid of that boldness in the font. Okay, so I'm going to go back here and make sure that the text is prompt. Oh, not that. It says prompt and it's not bold. And I'm just going to grab the menu itself and make sure that the text right there is also set to prompt. Okay, that's pretty much it for the nav bar. Moving on to the hero section. The next section is this hero. So as you can see, we have 2 columns here, so I set up in a grid. And on the left, we have some text and a button. And then on the right, we have an image and some stickers on top of it that are positioned absolutely. Okay, so we have a section right here. Now inside of here, wait a second, I'm just going to set a grid on the section. And so right now it's already in the 2x1, so there's 2 sort of columns in 1 row, which is exactly what we want, so just apply that. And then I'm going to drag in my first container. So just go to my quick adds and drag in this container. Okay, so this container is going to have a width of 100%. And it's going to be in the first grid cell, and it's also going to have 0 margin on all sides. It's also going to have some height, and that height is also going to be of 100%. If I can just use the percentages. Okay, there we go. So for this container, we are actually going to add we're gonna add a heading. So if I can just, okay, so attach this heading inside of here. And this heading is going to say, go from 0 to $1. Okay, so this, we're going to change the text and keep it to prompt. I'm also actually going to make sure that this is a heading 1. Actually, that might be too big. Let's keep it at the heading 2. And I'll make sure that it is prompt. I want to change some of the font sizes, so let's make it, let's say, so I'm going to hit scale text. So the lowest I want it to be is like 30, and the highest that I want it to go up to is, let's say, 50. Okay. For the line height, I'm going to get rid of auto spacing actually, and make sure that the spacing is a little bit less. Actually, never mind, just leave it at auto spacing, because like that. I'm going to grab the container, and I'm just going to change the background color to be this pink that we already have. And I'm also going to give it a 2-pixel black border. Okay, and then I'm just going to place the text in here. So this container is going to have some padding. So if I just go to my styles here, I'm going to give it a padding on all sides of, let's say, 4 VW works. So actually that might be too little. Let's give it 6 VW of padding on all sides. Okay, and I'm just going to place, just going to place this text here like that, and I'm just going to drag it so that it takes up the width of the whole thing. And I'm also going to just make the text bold. So let's just edit the text and make sure that it is set to bold like that. Okay, perfect. I might want to increase the sizing a little bit actually. Make it maybe 40 to 60. Okay. Now I want to drag in my paragraph. So for that, I'm just going to use this paragraph element that you see right here. And this is also going to have that width of 100%. And I'm just going to place it like that. Okay, so I'm going to edit the, or actually we can just keep the text the same. It's okay, we don't need to replace the text. And just make sure that the font is set to prompt. Okay, that's fine. And finally, let's add in that button. So I think they already have a preset button that we can use. So that's this one right here. Or actually, this one is a little bit more usable for us. So I'm just going to drag this button in. And this button is going to have, again, no margin. Okay, so the text can say start selling. Now I'm going to select all of these elements. I'm going to hit shift and select all of them. I'm going to stack them. Okay, and I'm just going to center the stack like that. Okay. Then I'm just going to duplicate this container itself, and I'm going to move it to the other side so that it takes up this second grid column like that. Make sure that it's just selecting this one like that. Okay, and it has a width of 100%. Okay, perfect. I'm going to change the background color for this one, so make sure that the background color is, let's see, this color is FFC 900. Okay, just apply that. Now here I'm going to get rid of this entire stack. So just delete that. And I'm going to drag in this image. So let's just add an image into here. And this image is going to be this one. Okay, just update. And I'm going to make sure that this image has a width of 100%. And a height of the same, and there's no margins at all, like that. I also really don't want this thing to be cropped, so let's go ahead and reduce the cropness of this. Make sure that it is taking up the whole thing, And then I'm just gonna, I guess, change the size of this. I don't know, just make sure that's the height of this. So the width can be set to 100%. Okay, so now on top of this, we're gonna place these stickers that we have. So for that, I'm just gonna go in to the images that I have, and I'm just gonna select this sticker right here. Okay, and I'm just gonna place it right here on the top like that. So right now it's set to the position of default, I guess. And from the top, we just want there to be, let's say, 2 VW. That might be too much. Let's make it 1.5 VW from the top. And 15% seems too much. Let's make it -1 VW. -5 VW. Okay, that looks good. Okay, I'm just gonna move it so it's like that. And I actually just want to reduce the size a little bit, maybe make it 30% instead of the 45 that it is. 35, I think. Okay, good. Now I'm just gonna duplicate this and add it to the bottom right here, and just change the image to be the one that we have right here. Just add that to the page, and I think that's good. Okay, I'm also going to make sure that this is set in VW, so make sure this is maybe 2 VW, and let's say this can be 1 VW. We'll change it with using just drag and drop. I'm just going to move it, let's say like that. Okay, perfect. So that's it for the hero. Next up, we have this really small text section and then some more grids. So for the next section right here, this really small one, it won't take too long. We're just going to move straight on to creating the grid after that. But for this small section, I'm just going to scroll down here, and I'm just going to add a section like that. This can be blank. It doesn't really have a grid, so just add that in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add an element to it, and that element is going to be a title, so like a heading, and I'm just going to place this heading inside of here. So this heading can say, yeah, I might as well copy what this says here. So, okay, like that. And I'm just going to change the font to be prompt. If I can change it, so like that. It's going to be prompt now, and it's going to be centered. And I'm going to make sure that it's centered in the middle like that, as well like that. And I also want to give this text some width, so let's say like 70% of width, so it's pretty big. And the section right now has a min height of 500 pixels, but really don't need it to be that big, so I'll maybe just give it a height of 200 pixels. And I think that's good. I might increase this just a little bit, maybe make it 80%. Okay, perfect. So that's it for that section. Now let's move on to creating this grid. So for that, I'm just going to add a section. Now this one is going to be a grid. And so here, yeah, that's going to be our grid layout right now. It's going to be 2 columns and 1 row. And I'm going to add a container in here. So this container is going to have a width of 100% and a height of 100%. And make sure that there's no margins or anything. Okay, like that. Now this one is going to have a background color of black, like you just saw. And that's, we just need to give it that same sort of padding. So if I go down here, I think we gave it 6 VW of padding. It's just trying to be consistent and give it the same padding all around. So 6 VW of padding, and I'm just going to grab the image. I don't think it's an image, I think it might be an SVG. So let's just go ahead and just add the actual media. So I'll just go in here. And I feel like, okay, so that's, is it this one? Yeah, okay, so it's this picture right here. And I'm just going to add it to the page. And then I'm just going to attach it to the middle like that. Make sure that it is centered and give it a width of 100%. Okay, perfect. Now I'm just going to duplicate this container, just sort of copy and paste it, and this time I'll make sure that it sits to the right, like that. Okay, perfect. Now I'll just need to change the image. So the image that we had was this one right here. So let me just add that to page. Okay, and I also just need to change the background color to be the yellow. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and we might as well create this next section down here. So let's go ahead and make that. So for that, I'm gonna just duplicate this section, really making sure that we don't need to do more work than we have to. So I just duplicated that section. And I'm gonna place this section so I'll go into my layers here. I'm just gonna grab this section and I'm gonna place it after this one. So not after the footer, but after this one. Okay, perfect. And in here we can just keep this text just the way it is. I'll just make this a heading 1 instead of a heading 2. And just reduce the size, maybe make it something like 60. Okay, 50. I think that's good. Now I'll just copy this text and just paste that in. Make sure that it says what I need it to say. Okay, let me just grab that. So this is centered, and just change the font. Okay, and I guess I can make this bold. Okay, then after this I'm just gonna add a paragraph element. So if I just go into my quick adds, just add a paragraph. Okay, so this paragraph can be centered like that, and I'll make these a stack, actually, both of these. Let's just stack them. Okay, now this paragraph can be centered, and I'll just make sure to give it the font of the prompt. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now if we just grab the stack and we make sure that this is centered. Okay, I think that's good. I might just change the minimum height to maybe 300 pixels. Not 30, 300. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, perfect. So these next couple of sections are pretty similar. For example, this section right here is pretty similar to this one down here. And this one up here is pretty similar to this one. So what I'm going to do is just sort of have a detailed walkthrough where I explain how to build this section and this section. But for the rest of these, I'll just sort of speed through on the video so you can still see what I'm doing, but I don't have to sort of repeat what I'm saying multiple times. But yeah, so let's just get right into it. So for this, I am going to add another section. And actually, just to speed things up even more, what might be helpful is just copying one of the sections that we already have. So I'm just going to copy this one because, again, it's pretty similar. So I'm just going to go to my layers, make sure I select this section, and I hit duplicate. Okay, so this is the section. Now I'm just going to drag it underneath this one that we already have. Oh, wait, let me just close this one up. Okay, perfect. So after this one, we are just going to change a couple of things. So as you can see, we have some text to the right and we have this image. So we can keep the image, but what we do need to change is this background color. So let's go ahead and get the tealish bluish background color that's there. So that would be of the hex code. Let me just type that in. So we'll add this color just so that it's able for us to be able to reaccess it later. So it'd be 23A094. So that's the color. Now, as you can see, for this particular container, we don't have any padding. So I'm just going to reduce the padding, just sort of make sure that all of them have now gone back to 0, like that. And then I'm going to grab the vector art, and I'm going to change this one to be the one that we already have, which is this one right here. Just going to add that to the page. Oh, and something that I forgot to do for the last section. So just grab the section, and I'm going to give it some border. So, or actually, sorry, grab the containers that we have inside of here, and I'm going to give them both 2 pixels of border, and make sure that the color is this black color and not that gray. So I'll grab this second section as well, make sure that this one also has that same border. Okay, now our next part is creating this sort of text right here. So I'm just going to grab the container and make sure that the color is set to white. And I'm just going to get rid of the image. Now instead of the image, we're going to have a title. So just going to place the title inside. And I guess we could change the text. So sell anything. And okay. So this can go up here, and I'll just increase the width so that it takes up the full width like that. Okay, and then I'm also going to add a paragraph element. And oh, I almost forgot, we need to change the text. So this can be prompt, and I'm just going to increase the size a little bit, maybe make it like 30, 35. Okay, that looks good. And for this text, I'm just going to change the font size, or the font actually, make that prompt, and make sure that the width is 100%. Now we also have a list here, so let's go ahead and create this list. For this list, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and grab a repeater. I'm just going to place the repeater inside here, and instead of making cards, I'm going to make sure that it's a list. Okay, and if I just need to reduce the size of this list, so let's grab one of these items, and I'm going to make sure that the height for these items is, there's no min height. Instead, what I'm going to do is just place, like actually just for that we're able to see it for now, I'm just going to give it a min height of 25 pixels. And then I'm going to place a couple paragraph elements, so into each of them. So this one is going to say sell if it registers. Okay, sell your top 10 lists. Okay, and just going to do the same to all of these. So sell your top 10 lists. And then finally for this last one as well, need to edit the text. Don't know why I didn't click for this one here, but I guess we can type that in again. So the width can be 100%. And we can also make sure that there's no min height, so it's just a height of auto. Let's make sure and see. Okay, so we do have the paragraph elements inside of our repeater. Let's just give them all a minimum height of something like 30 or 50 pixels, just for now. Okay, I'm not really sure why that text keeps going up all the way there. Okay, let's just reduce all of these margins and make sure that they're all set back to 0. Okay, like that, and I am actually going to place a star. So I'm going to go to my media here, or not a star, an arrow. So an arrow to go in with all these list items. So if I can just find that arrow, okay, there we go. Just add to page. Okay, I'm going to place this in one of the repeaters. And this is going to have a pretty small width, so let's say like something like 5%. And this is just going to be positioned all the way to the left, and it's just going to be center aligned like that. As for our text, it's going to be put like that, and it's going to be maybe like 7% of margin to the left. Okay, I'm also just going to get rid of that minimum height, make that none. Okay, and also make sure that this doesn't have a background color. Okay, I'm going to change this text to be the font that we want, which is prompt. Okay, and I think that's it. I want to give it a little bit of, no, I think that's good. I'm just gonna make sure that there's, okay, so 0 pixels of margin like that. And I'm just gonna move this repeater down a little bit, and I'm gonna move the text down a little bit as well, and I'll make sure that shift, grab all of these, and make sure that it's a stack. perfect. And give it a width of 100% and not 104. Okay. Okay, so that's it for this section. Like I said before, we're going to create this grid as well, and then I'll just sort of speed through it. So let's go ahead and make that. So for this, again, I'm just going to duplicate one of the sections. I actually might as well duplicate this hero because, again, it's pretty similar to what we have there. So I'll just grab this section and I'll just duplicate it. And by duplicate, I'm just hitting copy and paste. So this is the section. I'm just going to scroll down and close all these other ones, and I'm just going to drag that down. Let's drag this down. Okay, finally it works. Okay, so I'm just going to replace the image to be this one right here. So just change that image. Okay, update, and what I also want to do is get rid of this right here, the sticker, and I'll just change the vector art on this one as well. And this is going to be this sticker right here. Okay, so for this one, I'm also going to make sure that there is no border. So, yep. And I also want the background color to be pink. Okay, and I'll do the same thing for this one right here. No border. Okay, perfect. Now I also want to add this text here and then this small paragraph down here. So for that, I can delete this as well as the button. But I will add a title. Okay. So this title is going to be a heading 3, let's say. That might be too big. Let's make it a heading 5. Or maybe a heading... Okay, heading 5 looks best. Just change the font to be the one that we wanted. So that's prompt. And I'm just going to copy and paste this text into here. Okay, make sure that the width is 100%. And I might as well lower the font size a little bit. Maybe I'll make it 25. Okay. And I can't really grab that text in the background, so I'm just going to delete that paragraph and I'll add it again. So add paragraph, just attach it in. And I think I want to copy and paste this text. So, okay. There we go. Now I'll just paste this in, edit text, and paste that in. So this is going to change to be prompt, and I'll make sure that it is a paragraph 2. Okay, and now if I just, it's not what I want to grab, this text right here, I can just place it down here. Make sure it has a width of 100%. I think that's good. I actually might even want to move this up a little bit. The text, might want to move the text up a little bit. Trying to hit Control Z. Okay, there we go. Make sure that there's really no margin. And okay, so that's it for this section. Now I'm just going to create these next ones, and if I find something that I haven't mentioned before, I'll just go ahead and create that as well. So, yep, just going to speed through this part. Okay, well that's it for the grid section. Next up is this income that you see right here, this section with all these coins. So let's go ahead and build that. So our next section has this SVG image that's sitting at the bottom, and then it also has this really giant piece of text, and then some coins that are just floating around on the screen. So let's go ahead and build that. I'm going to go into my site here. I'm just going to close everything up, and I'm going to make a new section. So just add a section. This one is going to be blank. It's not going to have a grid layout. So yep, so inside of here, I'm going to put in my first piece of text, and that's going to be the title. And this is going to have a height of, well, it can be this big. Okay, and I'll just copy this text and just paste that in. Okay, actually I feel like it should be even bigger than that. So let's make this like 100. I should probably grab it and then type that in. Okay, that does not help too much. Okay, I think let's try 150. Okay, just now let me just change the font to be the one that we want, and I'll make it bolder. Okay, and I just want to make sure that it has as much width as it needs, so 100% width. And actually I just want to make sure that this text is centered. I might make it a little bit smaller. Let's say 125. 110. Okay, 110. And again, no margins, so just change that. Okay, like that. Now I'm gonna add a paragraph element. So that's gonna sit right down here, and our paragraph element is gonna be centered, as well as, again, our font, which is prompt. Okay, so now I'm just gonna exit out of that, and I'll place this text underneath this one, and like that, and I'm just gonna copy both of them and just stack them. And the stack is going to be centered to the middle, and like that. Okay, I actually just want to move the stack up a little bit. Okay, like that, and I think that's good. Now I'm going to add in that big image that you see down there. So for that, I'm just going to go into media, and I'm just going to pull that image. So that's this one right here, so I'm just going to add to page. Okay. I did not need to grab that. I want to grab the image. Okay. And now that it has a height of... Okay, I think that's good. So I also want to make sure that it has a width of 100%, so it's like that. And again, there's no margin of any kind. And I think I just might move it down a little bit, so that our section gets bigger as well. Don't know why our section isn't getting bigger, but let's see. Okay, that's because this has been placed inside the footer. We don't want that, so I'm gonna make sure that it's attached to the section. Okay, and it shouldn't be in the stack either, so let's just making sure that it's out of the stack, but still in the section. Okay, there we go. Now if I move it all the way down like that and make sure that there's no margin to the left, and now that should work. Now if I just keep moving it down a little bit. Okay, just a little bit more. Okay, and now if we check, the section should be, is still not growing. I don't know why. That's really weird. Okay, I'm just gonna place it inside the stack then and see if maybe that helps. Okay, so we actually want the paragraph to go after the heading. Okay, that's better. And I think our section is covering that as well. Okay, perfect. So now let's go ahead and add these sort of coins or images that you see sort of floating around. So for that, I want to give some padding to the top. Maybe I want to give, for this section, let's say like 5 VW of padding at the top. Okay, that's good. And I'll move these elements in the stack, so just the text, a little bit farther up. So like that. Okay, that's good. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add these actual images. So let's just go into our add panel here. And I'm gonna pick one of them to add. So let's try to find, okay, that's income 1. So let me just add that to the page. So that's gonna be this sticker that's sort of squished up all the way on the side. So for that, I'm gonna maybe give it a -6 VW of margin to the left, and I'm gonna give it -6 VW of margin to the top. I actually might move it a little bit here. Let's say here's where I want to move it. Uh-oh. Don't want it to be part of the stack, which is what it's asking me to make it, but let's just try to move it with this then. So I'll move it -2 VW from the top. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's going to be -6 VW from the top. And for the next sticker, so let's go ahead and just duplicate this one more time. And okay. So for this, just change the vector art to be income 2. Okay. Just add to page. And for this one, this sticker is also going to be sort of docked up in the same area, but it's going to have 5 VW of margin to the left. So let's make that like 20. Because I do kind of want to push it all the way far here. And I do want to move it up a little bit, so let's say like, sorry, I meant -10 VW. Okay, that's good. Now let's just, again, duplicate that, and I'll change the vector art to be income 3. This one is going to be sort of squished up here. So for that, I'm just going to dock it to the right, and I'm going to give it, let's say, 5 VW spacing from the right, and also some from the top, so let's say -5 VW from the top. I also want to reduce the size of this a little bit, maybe just 12%. And for this first vector art, maybe make that 10%. Actually, let's make that 13. Okay, now I'll add, or I could just duplicate like that. Just grab that. Okay, so for this next one, I'm just going to change the vector art to be income 4. And I think this one is the one that's sort of squished up here. So this is going to have a slightly bigger width, so let's make that 17%. And this one is going to be 20 VW from the top, and it's going to be -3 VW, let's say, from the, like that. Now I'm going to grab this section, and I'm going to hit overflow hide. Okay, there, now we don't see what's sort of left off of the vector art. I might move it a little bit more off the edge, actually. Okay, like that. And then finally, let's create this sticker down here. So for that, it's okay, I can just get it from here. So this is going to be this one, and I'm just going to add it to the page. Okay, so this is going to have a smaller width. So let's say like 5%. Okay, maybe that's too small. And I'm going to dock it to the left, like that. And it's going to be, just say, 3 VW from the left, and 5 VW from the bottom. Actually, I might make it a little bit bigger, just 12%. and add some more space and also a little bit more space at the bottom. Okay, so that's it for this section. I'm gonna quickly speed through creating this next grid, which is also pretty similar to the grids that we've made before, and then we'll move on to this sort of text section, which again we've already made before, right up here. So I'm gonna speed through that as well. And then after that, I will pop in again to explain how to make this section. So let's go ahead and speed through this one and this one. Okay, so that's it for this section. Next up we have this sort of accompaniment to the footer and the actual footer. So let's go ahead and build that. So the final thing that we're going to be building is this footer. So let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, I have pretty much everything done down here now. Okay. So actually before we do our footer, we have this really small section here, so let's just go ahead and build this. So this is going to be, I'm just going to add a section here. So it's going to be blank. And this, okay, so for here, I'm going to make sure to set this background color of pink. Okay, and I'm going to reduce the minimum height, make it something around 300 pixels instead of 500. And then, actually, I'm going to add this element that you see. So let's add this title. We don't want that. So let me just copy this text, and I'll just place it inside of here. Okay, and I'm just going to center this and then change the font to be the one that we want. Now I'm going to give this a heading of 3, let's say, heading 3. Okay, that's good. And let's give it a width of, let's say, 60%. To be pretty big. And then I'm going to center it vertically as well. Now all we need is a button, and I think we have the same button up in our hero. So let me just go get it from the hero. That way it's easier and we don't have to, you know, keep having to reuse these. So just copying this, and I'm going to scroll back down. And I'm just going to paste this inside of this container. Okay, perfect. Now, just going to, okay. So this, I'll stack both of these. So I'll stack these. And then I'll increase the minimum height, actually make it something like 400 pixels, maybe. And then I'll grab our stack and I'll just center it perfectly. Make sure the button is also centered. Okay, perfect. So that's it for that. Now let's go on to making this actual footer. So for this next section, we have right here. So for this next section, as you can see, we just need to add a couple of things. So I'm going to go ahead and add another section, and this is going to act as our footer. Now our footer is going to have a bit of a grid layout. So what I'm going to do is just hit grid, and it's going to have 2 columns, as you can see here, and 3 rows. So row 1, row 2, and row 3, and column 1 and column 2. So for that, as you can see, I have a grid here. So this is going to be, I think I might have to hit other and customize this myself. So this is going to have 2 rows and 3 columns. Now I'm just going to hit apply. Okay, perfect. Now the first thing that I want to do is just make sure that the background color is set to black. Okay, what's this? That's not what I want. Just set it to black. Okay, there we go. Now the next thing that we need to add, okay, so the first thing, as you can see, is that white logo. So let's go ahead and grab it. Going into the media tab and just trying to find it. Okay, so that is called, I think footer logo was a name. Okay, there, right there, it's right there. Okay, I'm just gonna add to page. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that it's in this sort of column right here, okay? Again, no margin. I want it to take up pretty much the entire column. Right now that's too big, and let me just go back. And what I'm going to do is change some of the grid settings around. So let me just grab the section. So as you can see, there's like a little bit of a gap in between both the rows. In between both the rows and the columns. So let's go ahead and create that gap. Okay. So I'm going to go to advanced mode. And okay. Let's see. So here, this section takes up slightly more width than this one does. So maybe I want to change that. So this can be, let's say 1.2 FR. Okay, so it's a little bit bigger. And then as for our rows, let's add the gap first. So in terms of the grid gap, let's see, we can make it 20 VW. As far as the column gap goes, I think that might be too much. Let's keep it at 12. Okay. And for the rows, we can keep it at 15 VW. Let's try that out. Okay, I think that's also too much. Let's see, at 10 maybe? Okay, 10 looks way better. Okay. So I'll open up this panel now. And okay, so this nav logo is going to be situated in this column, and I'm just going to give it a width of, let's say, 12 EM. Sorry, 12 VW. That might be too much. Let me see. Let's try 16 VW. Okay, and I'm just going to position it all the way in the top right there. And oh, I almost forgot. So for our grid layout, I'm going to go into advanced mode one last time and make sure that all of these rows have a calculation or have a height of auto. So just make sure that they all have that height of auto. So now if I hit done, I think that should be good. Okay, and let me just open up this panel one more time. Okay, it's still looking a little bit weird, so I'm going to go back into here. Okay, all those are set to auto. Let's just change the gap to maybe 5 VW. Okay, that looks better. Oh, okay, so I see the problem here. So what's happening is that we have a minimum height. So if we just reduce that minimum height, you can see that things start to look a little bit more like how they're supposed to. Let me just give it that. Okay, perfect. Okay. So now that we have the logo done, let's add this text that goes right here. So this is also going to be a heading. I think we can just copy it from here, actually. So let's just grab this text. And I'm just going to copy it. Okay, and I'm going to place it in here. Okay. Oh, I want to give this section some padding. So let's see, 6 VW of padding like we've been giving to everything else. Okay, let's lock it so that they all have 6 VW of padding. Okay, so that's our text. Now I'll just paste in the actual text that we want. Okay, and this should just be located in the second grid cell right here, the one exactly. So this is going to have a width of 100%, and make sure that there's no margin of any sort. Okay, perfect. Now finally we need to create, or at least for this column, we need to create this. We need to add this logo, and then we also need this text. So for that, I'm going to add in our logo. It should be right there. Okay, Gumroad icon. There we go. So this I'm just going to place in this column right there. And make sure this has a width of, let's say, 5%. Okay, and I'm just going to position this in the third row like that. And again, no margins because that's messing things up. Okay, perfect. Now finally we just need to add that text. So let's just place that text inside of there. So this is again in this row right here. And it has very little text actually, so let's just copy this and I'll just place it inside of this text. Okay, and also make sure that the text is white, otherwise we wouldn't be able to see it. Okay, let's see, let's give it maybe 6% of margin to the left, and I'll just change the text color, which for some reason isn't changing. Okay, good, and I believe that's it. Okay, moving on to these links that you see over here. So for that, I'm actually just going to add in a repeater, and I'm going to place the repeater right there. Okay, so this repeater is going to be a list, okay, and each list item is going to have a minimum height of, let's say, 50 pixels. 20 or 40 looks good. And for each of them, I'm just going to add in some text. So just add that text in. Okay, so they're all going to have, okay, let's hit edit text. I'm just going to call this help. Okay, so each of these pieces of text again has 0, and we're going to go to our items and make sure that it doesn't have a background color. So let's just lower the opacity because we want it to be transparent. But then we want the actual text to be visible, so again, let's make that visible by just changing the text color. And make sure that it's centered to the left, like that. And now I'm just going to edit the text and just make sure that we have some of these. Okay, and now I think we can get rid of those minimum heights. So I'll just go back here and set that minimum height to be none. Okay, now, yep, just gonna place this repeater. So right there, again, no margins. And then I'm just going to copy and paste these. Uh-oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, just grab one of the items and I'm just gonna duplicate that. Okay, well that's not working. So let's just add an item like we would manually here. Okay, that's not, yeah. Okay, let's just go to the repeater, and if we select add item, okay, I'll just add a, that might be too much. Okay, I think let's just add 5. Okay, and then I'm gonna make sure this repeater takes up only 50% of the width, and make sure it doesn't have a minimum width. And then I'm just gonna duplicate the whole repeater, and I'm just gonna place it next to the other one. So, yep, like that. Now we just need to add in these icons, and I think we'll be good. So let me just go ahead and add those in. So I'll add the first icon, and then we'll go from there. Now we're gonna put all of these images in a container just so that it's easier for us to sort of spread them apart. So this it's gonna be all the way down here. Okay, we can just give it a width of 100%. any minimum height of 25 pixels. Again, this is just for now. 100%. Okay, and I'm just gonna make sure that it doesn't have any margin of any sort. Okay, perfect, like that. Don't know why it's still, okay, so that's not what we want, 25 pixels. Okay, now I'm gonna get rid of that background color. Just make it transparent. And instead what I'm gonna do is just grab, again, one of my images like I was mentioning before. So I think right here, so we have images. So this is the Instagram image. So now I'm just gonna place this inside of this container that we already have. And I'm gonna give it a width, or a, let's see, a width of 5 VW. That might be too much. Okay, let's just leave it at 5%. 2%. Okay, that's not working. Okay, that's because it's giving the container that width. So let's go back here and make sure that says 10%. VW, I think looks nice. A 2 VW, and then I'll give it a max width to make sure that it isn't too big, so 35 pixels. So now that I have this image in this container, what I'm going to do is grab all the other logos. So let's just go ahead and grab all of those. So for example, we have the Twitter, we have the YouTube, we have Pinterest, and we have Facebook. So let's just grab all of those. I'm just going to add them to the page. As you can see, they're all sort of piling up here, but I'm just going to place them on this line right here. And like that. And I'm going to place the Twitter logo all the way at the end and make sure that, again, there's 0 pixels. So I'm going to do that for all of them. Okay, this one is left, and I think this one might be it. Okay, now I'm just going to grab all of the images, and so just grab all of them. I'm just hitting shift and grabbing them, and I'm going to make sure that they are distributed horizontally like that. Okay, so that's it for the footer, and that is actually it for the whole website. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and like, subscribe, and comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.